Sort of. Except you have other people that you hired to help you. So you have to equate a percentage. Well, on your payout books, you can equate a percentage of hours time in and figure out what their bonus would be. And the bonus comes in to say half of that money printed, it comes directly to you. What are you going to do with that money? You're probably going to spend it, and it's going to get taxed all along the way, which means the back two goes right back to the government. Now remember, in my equations, every dollar that the government puts back out in discount, as long as it is what's called a diversified proportionate distribution. In other words, it goes to all Americans, not just specialized. Trickle down specialized doesn't work. If it's generalized, it works. The formula is every dollar put out basically turns from 100% to 140% in a back toe realized, recaptured into taxation systems from stimulus. And in 4 years, it's about 280%. So every dollar becomes $2.8 in that. So if we're looking at a new series of physics as we're building and equating the fairness and addressing necessities in this mass economic model, there's a lot of ways to address guaranteed forward movement and guaranteed asset growth. And it's not just housing. There's a lot of other areas where people can do things. I mean, from a simple standpoint, when somebody says, I want to build a boat, I know fiberglass, boom, I built a boat. Someone else says, I'm crazy, I'm going to build this wood boat, and I might put in a lot more hours than what it's actually worth. But these are longevous assets. They can be sold for profit or retained. And a lot of it's labor. Now, whether, depending on the formalization for how much allowance for loan value to be able to cover all labor would depend. If you're going to sell it, it's a stimulus package. We should be fair about it and say, yeah, why not? If you're going to build this out of wood and you're just going to put insane amounts of time in it, this could be a loser. You kind of got to evaluate that with a grain of salt. Might be able to do something in it if you're going to sell it. Guaranteed. But we have to be able to do something even if you're not going to sell it. Because why? Why? It's a hard asset, which means, again, it's basically the same formula. 70 cents on the dollar is a wholesale rating. There's a 30 cent on the dollar open zone to retail because it's a new creation into the fair market assessment. So that still translates out into 7.5%, 15% printed, and half of that money, 17.5%. Maybe you're the only person that built that fiberglass. Well, that 17.5% goes to you because the government has to print money to equate and offset the scales to make economic modeling work properly. We always have. There's no choice. So that's another set of simple examples, but there's a lot of other examples, tens of thousands of examples that can be looked at and evaluated as solid, doable. So we can do a risk assessment and understand where a lot of this comes. And now we're talking about the complicated sides. I've got other areas I was talking about. So now we're talking about more complicated sides. But all of this still has an economic mass model understanding that still equates to an evaluation of what? Ongoing, forward-moving political participation in guaranteeing growth. Growth. And I focus on the hard assets back because that's undeniable. That's tangible. That's in hand. That's equatable. That's something you can go to the bank with. You can go to the pawn shop with, whatever. So we need to address how these figures come into play and how to come up with a justifiable set of numbers to afford people real participation time. And there's a lot of participation time needed. I'm a day off for voting, that's not enough. I'm thinking a week. I'm thinking 10 days. I'm thinking 10 days. And this is federally paid for. We might as well do it. It's federally paid for. Now, the adjustment of how this is going to fit in companies' work schedules, we have to sit down. We have to be logical with this. We have to work with this. Because obviously companies need to keep their production moving at standard levels that are reasonable, but I feel that it's all doable. I truly believe that we can sit down with this and work with this, and you don't have to sacrifice your vacation time. Now, this may mean that you're not getting company paid, but you're getting federally paid. But here's the trick. I'm not going to say, we're not going to give a dime to somebody to say, take 10 days off and screw around. Gee, that would be nice. It would be nice if we were to that point where we could equate that. No, you have to do the work. This is for you to participate in the political process and the reinventing of the new growth wheel. So you have to have work to show. You have to show proof of work. Do you do this and get paid later? No, there's going to be an equated time for you to do this. Hopefully we're not going to have too much of an abuse. So I believe this is a solid area that we need to seriously not just consider, we have to figure out how to make it work and happen. I'm going to continue now with extensionalism. The extensionalism aspect deals with some companies are very good at growth engineering. So do we have areas and levels of growth engineering that we need to accept to say there's a political activity factor and it's reimbursable by the federal government? So, because if we're going to end up making a new set of standards, we need to understand that, yes, citizens have to have the option. Citizens must participate. You have to participate. So, but what about companies and corporations? Companies and corporations are sub-entities of our great corporation. And we need to think wisely about making sure that I believe we all have the invitation to participate. There's an ethics area where it must be fair, but I think we also have a large equatable area, and I'm going to leave that open because that's a very intricate area. There's a lot of complexity to that, as we can deal with various corporate arguments as to a corporate participation. There's a lot to that to consider. If I were to add to say, what kinds of ideas would we consider that might be looking at when somebody's modeling things? It could be we have an environmental problem. What is decent green consideration? If somebody says, my product is greener, it's a cutting edge technology, and it has to be developed, it deserves to be considered. Maybe it's expensive and they want to put a luxury tax on it, and they say no luxury tax. It should be considered new development. We have to move development forward. And I'm going to say that's a damn good idea. I'm going to say, we have real problems and we have to move them forward. Let's be reasonable about this. And there are a lot of other examples that are going to become incredibly intricate because I foresee opening up with my campaign, with my 360 computers, as a baseline start. They're going to interface with a lot of other computers. I'm anticipating of setting up separate areas, working with companies and corporations to say, let's work on the growth potential. Let's work on the areas that make sense. And there are lots of them. And with that, I think I'll move forward because time to condense all this, I have to keep moving forward. So, okay, I'm going to move forward with an understanding of capabilities that some people don't understand. I've been working with this for a couple of decades. AI is now embracing this at high speed. One of them is called high point editing. High point editing is the ability to go through and find the high points and have this machine do it in just literally seconds, or nanoseconds even, compared to human beings taking hours or days to sort through material. For instance, the material I'm producing now, I can take this audio, I can run it through a speech to text conversion, and I can take that once it's in text, and I can put it into computers for evaluation. So if I want to run over to, say, OpenAI and say, hey, I want to, let's work with this, I can do that. Maybe I have to divide it into chunks, however I do it. This can be done. But everything's moving so rapidly, it's just going to be massive memory extensions on this. So chunk cutting, all this, everything's moving so fast. It's mind-boggling to try to explain and convey to people how fast things are moving. And a big part of my campaign for more than 20 years has been the plan to bring massive AI use into play with all of these constructs, all these little cogs, these little puzzle pieces that come together. Designing something for a system 20, 30 years in advance of when it's actually going to exist is a bold commitment. This is a national security item. It's one of the reasons that the archive has to be repaired. Okay, so we're going to move forward now with another form of joint extensionalism. Various types of backing of citizens deal also with what? SBA, deal with backing you in creating a business, and the use of supercomputers and how we can back this. We need to come up with fair standards. It needs to be open to every citizen. I personally think that we have a lot of vested citizens. I would like to turn everybody into managers this way. I mean, simply, we have people worldwide racing to come to this country that are not vested citizens yet. And we need to guarantee that nobody's left behind that are vested citizens, so that vested citizens become managers. But here's the reality. We're looking at 25% of maybe 50% of the country that can actually fill those shoes. But it's doable. And the way it's doable is we have to back it. If we back it, it's going to happen. We have to offer continuous upgrade options for every citizen, regardless of where you are in life. We have to stabilize the engineering of this, and I am perfectly confident in how this is going to work with mass multiple modeling. Okay, comparatively tactical table. How does this fit in? Well, my research indicated to me that there was clear reason to believe that for the past 18 years, I would say, that China has been walking up to basically 10 plus million people a year, and they evaluate them and they say, yeah, you're smart, you're good. We want to back you. We'll give you the equivalent of 1 million American in currency. And, well, we have strings tied. And this is where they're different than the SBA. They're not just going to say, here's some consultants and advisors that are available. They're going to say, we guarantee endless advisors and endless extensional modifications, financially guaranteed, to guarantee that your business will be successful.